Hey everyone, welcome. Can you hear me all right? Welcome, welcome. Does everybody hear me okay?
Very long. They're going up to Maui.
I think one of the things they realized is
I hear people.
there was a big difference
I hear someone.
between her dad
This is
being
always the part where we kind of check the mic. So
with a whole
if
bunch
you
of
can't hear me, let me know.
they can. Could see I'd given it some thought. Planning.
Hey Travin, you there?
Hey, yep, Travin here. Can you hear me okay?
Good. Yeah. Do you go by Travin or Trevin?
It's Travin.
Travin, okay, got it.
No
My
problem.
brother's name is Naveen, and he almost spells it the same way. So that's probably why I started with Travin instead of Travin or Trevin.
Oh, it's okay. No worries. I've been called Kevin a few times this week. So
Yeah, I think it's better I
Yeah.
actually call you your real name.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, looks good. You know, we got a healthy audience tonight. I think about 33 registrants. So this is a good sized group. And I think, you know, just kind of the way that our group's been going, you know, so a lot of the people on here on the call are probably from JavaScript LA or from, you know, HackBuddy. But I feel like a lot of the crypto scene is also programmers. Just like I'm sure that you're aware of. And so I think a lot of people who are programmers are starting to look at, you know, the crypto scene and the blockchain and you know, all those good things and try to really get their feet wet. So my understanding for tonight is you're going to help us kind of learn the basics of the blockchain and crypto today, right? Is that kind of an intro?
It's more
Good
about,
enough
yeah,
intro?
like getting just what people should expect when they get to start working in the space. Yeah, I mean, at the end, I can try to give more specific advice, but for the planned presentation, it's more of a, you know, is this going to be the right space for you? Because I think like a lot of people on this you know, call probably understand, you know, how to figure out if your own technical you know, knowledge and experience fit into a specific role. I think I'm not going to, you know, go into that too much. I'm not a developer
Sure.
myself. I should just point that out.
Yeah,
A lot of my
course.
technical knowledge is self-taught.
Of course, of course. Okay, so before we jump into the presentation, I just want to do, you know, a quick spiel about the group. I always do. The main reason is for the new people that are coming in, may not be familiar. So I'm going to just jump into that real quick, and then I'll go ahead and introduce you as well for the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see it. You see it all right?
Yep, I see it.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to jump into these really quickly. So this is our website, JavaScript LA, javascriptla.net. And basically, if you're new here, you'll want to subscribe to our email mailing list. And so that way you're aware of what meetups are coming up. If you aren't sure where you are today, we're having the Intro to Crypto meetup with Travin Keith. And basically, you can come to this page to kind of get a sense of what other meetups are coming as well. We have one next week. This is an open source coding community that you can join and code together with me and some other developers. We also have a meetup for TypeScript and React, which is by popular request. And this is going to be pretty fun. That's at 6 p.m. on July 27th. If you want to connect with us and talk to us today, like literally right now, you can go onto our Discord channel and you can click any of the links you see here on the website. You can click on this one to join Team Hack. You can click on this one to join our Discord channel. Discord kind of looks like this. And so basically, you know, you can go and check out a lot of different topics in here and basically connect with people. I noticed Travin is also in the channel, so you can talk to him there. Slack, you can talk to us on Slack. A lot of people use Slack as well. So you can come here and do the same thing. And then basically, we also have social media, which is right here. So this is the YouTube channel. If you ever are asking, oh, where's the video after this, or where does it get recorded? It's at youtube.com/hackbuddyorg, O-R-G. And then some of our other social media is also available here on this webpage. So you can go to our LinkedIn and you can see our company page for HackBuddy. You can get some tips there. Facebook. We have a business group only now, like for people who are just business minded, not really programming. Mastery Friends, which is another page we have. Twitter, Instagram, whatever your favorite social media, we're probably on it. So, and then this is Team Hack's webpage, teamhack.org. So that's my general spiel. If you have any questions, you can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm just linkedin.com PJ and I'll put that in the chat as well. And you can ask me any questions directly, and I'd be happy to help you out. But otherwise, yeah, thank you for coming. Thanks to everybody for joining. And I hope you learn a lot from this particular meetup tonight. So I'm going to hand it off to Travin.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Going to start sharing my screen.
Yes. And by the way, just rules of etiquette, when you are listening in, please do not interrupt the speaker unless you have a question that he's pre-approved.
I can't seem to share my screen.
Hang on one sec.
Oh.
I got you. Yeah.
Okay,
So
there we go.
you should be able to now. So please keep your mics muted unless you have a question. It's better if you use the chat and then we can ask you directly if you have a question at that point. So in other words, please mute your mic while the speaker is presenting.
Awesome. So to get things started, I'm going to break my first rule of speaking, which is reading. And I'd like to read you a very special passage that you might find very significant. Citizens enjoy freedom of speech, of the press, of assembly, and of association. Citizens enjoy freedom of religious beliefs. Freedom of the person of citizens is inviolable. Freedom and privacy of correspondence of citizens are protected by law. Citizens have the right to criticize and make suggestions regarding any state organ. These, of course, are words that you might be familiar with if you have read the Constitution of the People's Republic of China. One of the biggest things that people say about in the crypto space is that it pushes legal regulations, breaks certain things. Growing up in the Philippines, it's quite common a lot of times where certain laws in place don't even really matter. In the capital city in Manila, it's very common to be on a bus, driving on the completely wrong side of the road. I only lived in Manila for about a month and a half. I'm from Cebu, a different city entirely in the middle part of the country. And I got hit by 2 cars and 1 motorcycle. The motorcycle hit me on a one-way street coming from the other side. I think in a lot of industrial countries like the United States, people get used that, when they see something or when a certain law is implemented, that is just going to be followed, that when certain laws about privacy are going to be released, that, yeah, it's just going to be followed. And so people sometimes start, question, why do we need this? Why is this even out there? And for me, it's very easy to understand. It's because those rules can be broken, and they are regularly. And so I'd like to thank everyone for welcoming me to give an intro on what it's like to work in this space that pushes the boundaries of so many things, not just legal, but social, political, technological, of course. And yeah, my journey started way back when I was working in tech support, back when I was a student at the University of Washington. Yeah, that's me carrying a bunch of blocks. That's how blockchain used to work back then. No, a colleague of mine said, hey, Travin, you're in tech and you're also in business. I was doing a business degree. And yeah, he just said, hey, you should take a look at this thing called Bitcoin. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll take a look. What is it about? It's this thing where, you can use to buy stuff on Silk Road. And I asked him what Silk Road was. And he says, oh, you can buy all of these things that were legal. And I was still in the United States at the time, and I was trying to immigrate there. And I said, like, I don't want to deal with any of that at all. I looked at over a screen, I saw $3, and I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to buy any of that. Sure enough, in 2013, I see this coming home. I was working in web marketing at the time. I just got published on Search Engine Journal, November 27th, 28th. And I see this when I get home. So I'm coming from a really big high and coming home and seeing this. And I remember seeing $3 over the shoulder on my colleague's screen. And I just pick up the phone and try to call him and scream, Aaron! And I'm sorry, I can't shout right now. It's 2:30 in the morning where I'm at. I'm in Switzerland. But yeah, I'm screaming and I'm, just trying to figure out, like, what did I miss? What in the world did I just, let by me? So I started digging. I went into Reddit, the r/Bitcoin subreddit. I think they still use this image every now and then. Just started digging in and understanding, okay, what is actually going on here? What is this, a revolutionary thing, or is it just a pure scam? What's going on? I just kept trying to read stuff, talk to people. Back then Discord groups weren't a thing. We talked on IRC. I was also in Bitcoin markets. Being a business person, I am quite interested in the financial aspects of things, especially back then, before I realized that I am a horrible trader and a really bad investor. So if anybody tries to pretend to be me and gives investment advice, stay away. And finally, I decided to buy something, and I couldn't buy Bitcoin. It was so difficult to buy it at the time. In 2013, right at the spike hitting $1,000, a lot of the businesses around the time weren't ready, so I bought Litecoin because I couldn't buy Bitcoin. I started getting into this thing called NXT because they were trying to do things a little bit differently than all of the other coins. They were trying to have a lot of different features on there. This is the first wallet. As you can see, things were really, really bad on design back then. But it didn't matter. People were, just happy to try and test things out. Of course, when the price hit $800, and actually here, oh, sorry, it's been blocked. I'm going to move that away. Actually hit $574. It was quite painful because I had just bought literally at above 1,000. And shortly before that, I decided to try to have a stop loss, which I had to code, actually. I'm not a very good developer, as I said at the start of this. I wouldn't even call myself one at all, unless you want to consider QBasic there. I had something to prevent this from happening at around $800. So when I saw 443 when I woke up the next day, I thought, okay, you know what, it's fine. I got it covered. I looked at my laptop and I found that Windows Update restarted my laptop. No, I didn't run it on the cloud. Nobody did that back then. We all just ran everything locally. And yep, whenever Windows Update made a restart, yep, everything was gone. It was quite a, devastating impact into the rest of the community. As you can see here, the suicide hotline in the United States was sticking to the top of r/Bitcoin. This happened again, by the way, in around early 2018, around January. When going down from $20,000. It's just something that, for me, it was a very shocking thing. I just lost a significant amount of my money. I didn't put a lot of it in there, thankfully, but I lost what was a significant amount for me back then. And it was the same for a lot of people. I mean, I remember somebody just shortly before this telling that, hey, I'm going to pay for your surgeries, I'll pay for your school and everything like that. And, wakes up the next day and sees all of this and all of the money's gone. Can't follow through on any of the promises anymore. There were, of course, still some positive things. Dogecoin, yes, Dogecoin back then was growing quite a lot. I actually have here a very key piece of Dogecoin history is show and tell. It's one of the first physical Dogecoins ever created. I still have it sealed. It's slightly opened up, but no, it was still a fun community back then, but also one of the craziest things. And I think that, it was a very weird dynamic, which I'll go over a little bit more. I'll say why all of this is very relevant later on. Yeah, people were having fun times. Well, everything was just going really badly. For me, between mid-2014 to mid-2016, I had to deal with some life issues. I actually lived in Fiji for about 4 months. It's a very nice place. It's a very nice tropical area. I really love it. People are really nice. But it was a dictatorship at the time. And that's actually where I saw one of the key values of cryptocurrency, because there were a lot of embargoes that were going on in Fiji, but there was a web development company in Fiji, and they had to close down because they couldn't take international clients anymore. I know a lot of the big companies operating in Fiji actually had credit card transactions processed in Hawaii, New Zealand, or Australia, because it was just so difficult or so expensive to process anything in the country itself because of its dictatorship, and PayPal wasn't willing to send any money there. Sorry. But for the local Fijians, they didn't have any options. They just shut down. Their clients couldn't pay them. Sending MoneyGram to anyone in Fiji, I think, cost around $50 US at the time. The minimum wage in Fiji was US $250 per hour. Didn't make any sense. So yeah, in mid-2014, 2016, I had to deal with a lot of life issues. And for some reason, it took me up to this place called Svalbard and the town of Longyearbyen. It was cold. It was very cold. I don't know if you can see on the screen there, there's like a piece of skin that's showing out. Yeah, that was very painful. I was dog sledding in this trip, and yeah, it took a while for me to recover from the pain from that. But yeah, it was a beautiful place. And you hear jokes sometimes from people where they say, how do you learn development in a day? How do you learn to code in a day? And favorite answer is when somebody says, go to the North Pole, go right before summer or right before winter, and just learn for 4 months. And guess what? Then when you see the sun again, you'll learn a lot more. That's almost exactly what I did. I just went in there and dove back into cryptocurrency. Web marketing role wasn't working out for me. I was having problems immigrating in Europe. And I said, you know what? Crypto was quite interesting. Let's go back into that. And why don't we start a career out of it? And so that's what I did. I messaged NXT and I said, hey, I was around back in the day. Can I get involved? And my main intention was really just to learn. I knew that I didn't have the development skills. I know that I have a little bit of technical knowledge, enough to work in tech support, but not anywhere near enough to work in such a high-tech industry. And so, yeah, it was just basically learning by doing. And so I started doing work for NXT. I started becoming part of the NXT Foundation. And I started saying yes to a lot of the opportunities that came along the way. And I think I went a little bit overboard. These are almost all of the organizations that I've played some role in over the past 5 years. There's a lot more clients here that I did not put up because it just gets, I couldn't fit them anymore. And some of them I just did a few hourly consulting hours with. But yeah, all of these organizations played a key role in me learning things and understanding. And soon enough, I realized it's not just about understanding technology. It's also understanding about everything that comes around. But what were the key things I learned? It was the worst financial decision of my life. But at the same time, it was one of the best overall decisions of my life. There's a lot of financial misconceptions about people working in this space. And I know that sometimes you can hear a lot of stories about, this person who founded this project made hundreds of millions of dollars and can now donate whatever they want to do, whatever cause they feel important. Or they have $1 billion and decide to, try to just help countries out, bailing countries out sometimes, or try to at least. But pre-2017 was very different. It was an incredibly different time. We had people volunteering so much of their hours. With the NXT Foundation, I think I volunteered for the first 6 months and relied on tips from community members. Yeah, sure, there were times that I was paid 100,000 NXT, which at the high point would have made me about $200,000 if I had any of it left. But I didn't, because all of the money that I got paid, that went into food and rent, and that didn't cover much more than that. I even had to borrow money sometimes just to pay internet. A lot of people in the early days really struggled. And a lot of us, if you look at maybe our salaries back then and just see how much we made per month, because a lot of this is public, because a lot of this is the transactions are publicly stated on a forum, or our addresses are public so people know where to tip, or if it comes from a certain pool, which the NXT Foundation had a whopping 50,000 euros of, which we used for 2 years. Thinking about the projects they raised millions, it was an entirely different thing. I mean, we stayed at an Airbnb one time, 4 of us, in one small Airbnb because that's all we could afford to go attend an event. It's really different time. And yeah, so honestly, a lot of the people who are around the space who worked a regular job or whatever job that they had and just bought cryptos made out with a lot more money than a lot of the people who were working in the space. Yeah, sure, there were some people who were working in the space who had a lot of savings and perhaps saved all of that money. Not a lot of us did. A lot of us, look back at our time and just think about how much money we spent on rent and food and basic necessities to survive. There's lots of risk. I mean, I remember one time I was paid about $1,500, and that was just about enough to cover rent and food for the month. I sent it to an exchange to sell because I need to sell all of it. By the time it hit the exchange, price tanked, and I only had 1,100 left. I had to borrow money from my girlfriend at the time. Yeah, I mean, the work environment as well was a very different thing. Back then it was way crazier, but now it's still, a lot of it still holds true today. So yeah, what to expect working in crypto? You get a lot of unstructured working hours. I mean, hey, here I am at 2:30 in the morning, and I'm actually normally working at this time as well. It's just really chaotic because it's a global thing. Unlike the financial stock market, it's not 9 to 5 on weekdays, but a certain time zone. It's 24/7. Holidays don't matter. If you're sleeping, nobody cares. It's going on. Your software, your smart contracts or whatever that might be holding significant amounts of user funds. It's out there for hackers to attack. People are using your software just nonstop, and you might not have team members awake at certain points of the day. It's a very startup. It really is a startup environment, and it's a very intense one. I come from the startup world. Before I got into crypto, I've only essentially worked for startups. It's a very different space because, well, let's just say there's a lot more slavery of people, usually from the co-founders, than you would expect. Corrected here to intense startup work environment. You get a lot of unusual stakeholders. I'll go more into this later on because that deserves its own section, but it's very different than traditional companies where you can expect, your boss or the investors, the users and the customers to be pretty much the main people you need to care about, and maybe of course the government. Lots of legal uncertainty. As I mentioned early on, there's a lot of things being pushed here in terms of legal regulations. There was one time I remember in 2016, I almost stonewalled a certain project that I was part of because I said, I can't be included in this because if I will be included, there's a decent chance I might not be able to go back to the United States for a visit. Free market competition and employment. If you are in an expensive country, again, like me here in Switzerland, it's very hard to compete against other people in other countries and other cities. Because there's not really much of a difference in that scenario. Like when people hire somebody, in the Philippines or Canada or South Africa, it doesn't make much of a difference, which can be a good thing, which I'll go over again later. But for somebody who's moving from a more traditional working environment to something like this, where you live almost doesn't matter, especially as a developer. For a salesperson, maybe it matters a little bit. For a lawyer, it matters a lot. But for a developer, it very, very rarely matters. So, keep in mind that maybe in terms of salary or any other compensation, you're competing against worldwide level salaries here, which might not be what you'd like. Again, unusual stakeholders, it's quite a bit different. So you get this normal stakeholder structure, again, investors, co-founders, execs, other shareholders, and of course, customers and government, things like that. But there's one key addition: token and coin holders. These people can kind of make things a lot more emotional than they should be. These are people essentially who, saw a token that is maybe part of the company that you're working for or one that you co-founded and is unhappy because they put $500 in there and now it's 300 and they're going after you. Back when I was working at NXT, it's normal for me to wake up in the morning and receive 40 direct messages from 40 different people complaining about the price and about how bad of a job I'm doing because they're not millionaires yet. I remember there was one time on Reddit, someone wrote a long post because they made a lot of money on NXT. They made about $100,000 from a $1,000 investment. Wow, good for them. Do I get some of that? But anyway, they were saying that I did a bad job because they could have made $1 million in another token. Of course, these are the more extreme examples, and there were cases that I actually had people threatening to kill me over Twitter, over email. I think I maybe got one about once a week. It's a little bit of an extreme case because I was one of the only non-anonymous people at the time, so I was an easy target for a lot of people. But still, when you're going into a crypto working space, especially if there is a token or a coin associated with the project, if it doesn't have one, maybe this won't apply. But there's a really strong lack of understanding of responsibility. They say a lot like with great power comes great responsibility, and couldn't be any further from the truth in the crypto space. They have the great power that they can send the money anywhere they want in the world, but at the same time, there's people out after them trying to steal it. So sometimes I get people saying, hey, can you reset the blockchain because someone stole my money, I want it back. But that's not how this works. Or I also get a lot of with the prices. We don't control that. Again, it's a 24/7 market. There's no circuit breaker. So if that thing drops by 20% in an hour, it's going to keep dropping. It's going to drop 50, it's going to drop 50, it's going to drop 90, it will. And I've seen it, unfortunately. But yeah, these people might just end up coming after you, might say certain things. So if you don't have the thick skin, but really it's not even that, it's just the understanding and expectation that this is something that you're going to get. You're going to be in for a big shock. And I mean, obviously this is more relevant for the people higher up in certain projects, but still it's something you're going to need to keep in mind. It's going to be something you're going to need to be used to quickly, because if you see on community channels people criticizing you for doing a bad job, your boss isn't your only boss anymore. But still, I mean, I understand I've just been talking about a lot of the bad things that have been going around, but I say here, it's one of the best overall decisions of my life, and it's true. It really is, even for all of that. The free market competition and employment for me was actually the biggest win. I said I lived in the United States. I'm not American. I never held US citizenship or permanent residency. I was only a student there. But I wanted to stay longer. Shortly after almost around the time I graduated from college, I was living in Seattle, and I tried to apply to AWS. I mean, they were really starting to grow. They wanted to grow their team. The big AWS offices didn't exist yet. They were still trying to expand to that area. I applied. They said, hey, actually your profile is probably better suited for another role that we have that's higher up, and you fit much better into that. And so essentially it was a promotion during the first interview, and they invited me for the gauntlet. I did quite well, apparently. And by the end of it, the manager actually told me, Travin, we're not going to interview anyone else. We like you. This is going to HR, and then we'll send a formal offer, but that's just a formality. I was so happy to hear that, coming from the Philippines. And I just really wanted to go somewhere else that I felt more at home in. I didn't really feel at home in the Philippines. Thanksgiving hits, I say like, okay, fine, it's taking some time. Early December, I start following up. The manager says, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm following up with HR. About a week or so before Christmas, I got an email from the manager. Manager says, I'm very sorry, Travin. HR has decided not to hire you because you're Filipino. And that's when I learned that in the United States, it might be illegal to discriminate by nationality, but it's not illegal to discriminate by immigration status and citizenship. Meanwhile, my friend from South Korea was able to get it easily because of the Korean-American Free Trade Agreement. And so for me, it was such a damaging moment because I was essentially told, hey, Travin, no matter how good you can be, no matter how much you learn, what you can accomplish, you'll always just be a Filipino, and you're not going to be able to get in this because that's the blocker. Meanwhile, in crypto, I've never felt that. I've never had that. All I've ever wanted was just to be appreciated for who I am and what I can do, and not care where I was from. And for a lot of people, that matters a lot as well. And that's really, for me, I mean, one of the big things around it. mid 2014, 2016, the problems was that I considered Seattle my home, and I was uprooted from that home. And so I had a big, identity change. I was telling people I was from Seattle even by around 2013. So it was a massive, massive change. And me, trying to find out where to go. I had a lot of immigration problems. I went to Fiji because I could stay there for 4 months without a visa. Ended up going to Austria. And then I ended up having problems there with immigration, and no company in Europe was willing to sponsor me because the immigration process was just so difficult everywhere else. So yeah, I mean, what to expect working in crypto in terms of positives. It's a very collaborative community. Because of people teaching me and helping me understand things, I actually sometimes incorrectly come off as a developer to some people because I do understand intricate parts about the technology, about various aspects of cryptocurrency technology, not just blockchain, but directed cyclic graphs and everything else around it. And I did not get this knowledge just on my own. I got this from a lot of people teaching me. When I contributed to the Hyperledger white paper, which is Hyperledger is a project of the Linux Foundation, I was the only non-technical person there. I had people who were heads of cryptography help me understand how zero knowledge works. I could ask for no better teachers other than that. My technical knowledge has increased vastly. Geographically agnostic, again, as I mentioned, it doesn't matter where you are. This whole trend about working remotely, guess what? A lot of us in crypto have been doing that already for years. KYC agnostic, if you're from a country that might not be so friendly with around crypto, or might not be so friendly with certain things, like maybe working with a certain country, guess what? In the crypto space, you have the option of being pseudonymous or anonymous. Sorry. And you have that option if you want to reveal yourself or not. And that's such a fantastic thing around the space. Holistic learning. I mean, again, it's not just technology aspects that I've learned a lot from. Legal, I've learned so much in law, in international law, especially with AML and all of this. And it's actually been quite fun for me. I know it's boring for a lot of people, but it's very useful in your career, especially, when you work for maybe like an exchange. You're going to start learning a lot of financial regulations, some financial terms as well, and financial structuring. If you try to work for anything with regards to just having, a blockchain network, you're going to start learning a lot about the various use cases and the legal restrictions that those may face in various industries. You're going to get so much exposure. The social aspect, I did mention all of the negative stuff of people attacking me, threatening me, and all of that. But at the same time, it's such an interesting social experiment to see how people come together. There's this thing now called, well, it's been around for a while, but it's gaining a resurgence, called decentralized autonomous organization, which is, in a very basic legal point of view, it's a simple partnership amongst people who really don't know who each other are around the world. I mean, that just pushes any sort of legal regulation of what do we do from a regulator point of view. But from a social perspective, it's so interesting to see people collaborate in a greater capacity, not just in an open source, let's contribute code together, let's work together in certain projects. No, it's like, here's money together that we're putting together, and we're going to try to figure out what to do with it. Yeah, and political as well. I mean, I've had a lot of political exposure growing up. I've had a lot of interesting understandings and encounters, especially in the immigration side. I guess you could count that as legal, but I mean, it's fantastic for a lot of people in the space. I'm seeing so many people who probably would have never heard of El Salvador or the politics around Central America, if not for their involvement around cryptocurrency. I would maybe, they probably wouldn't have even understood rather the politics around the European Union or just basic international relations. It's so fantastic to see people learn all of this. And yeah, it's a lot of aspects around it that you just don't really get in other industries. And again, for me, this is such just the biggest thing. You're almost solely judged what you have achieved, what you know, and what you can do. Going back to what I said about, crypto, with great power comes great responsibility. It's really up to you at the end of the day, not just in terms of, can I send a transaction from one person to another? Yes, there's help along the way, but it's your initiative. It's up to you to take things further. Maybe sometimes it's more realistic to say with great power comes great micromanaging, because then you have to figure out, oh, do I go here? Do I go there? Do I go there? But then it puts you into an interesting perspective. It takes you back. It makes you think, what do I really want to do? And I mean, for me, again, it's still the same. I could probably make a lot more money by finding some other regular job. I mean, especially with blockchain consulting, I can probably work for some enterprise company, but or maybe not. It's much more than that for me. It's that I can really take charge of my own career properly here. And I can see others do the same. And that's such a empowering thing. So that's it for my side. There's a lot of different differences with starting the industry today versus from 5 years ago versus from 7 years ago. There's a lot of resources available. And again, I can't list all of them out here, but it's so much. I mean, back in the day, I had to list specific links, specific books, but these days you can go online and find a lot of different courses. And I can't even say if one is necessarily bad, because they're probably actually quite decent, especially if a lot of people have taken them. There's a lot of YouTube videos, especially by Andreas Antonopoulos. They're just a great way to get started. Digital Gold by Nathaniel Popper is a great book as well, just to get a good understanding of the history behind the cryptocurrency space. I know I went a little bit on the negative side in terms of the community environment, but as you can see from that book and just the early history on crypto, it's a really positive space as well at the same time. And yeah, and meetups like this, it's such a fantastic way to just get to know people, ask questions. As Vijay mentioned, I'm on the Discord. Feel free to just message me. I'll try to answer as much as I can. I'm really busy these days, but I'll do my best. I'm happy to help out, because I remember back in the day when when I had my questions, there were people who didn't have answers, and I just had to dig and find it out. Yes, it was a good learning experience, but I could have also just been told 3 sentences about it, and it would be fantastic at the same time. So thank you very much for listening to my intro to the crypto space, and hopefully I've shed a little bit of light to help you figure out if it's for you or not. Yeah, happy to answer questions.
All right, cool. Great job, Travin. Basically, at this point, I can open it up for questions. We have one question from Jill. Jill, do you want me to read it out loud? Do you want to just kind of ask him yourself? I guess I can just jump in here. It says, okay, cool. Cryptocurrency is just one of the applications of blockchain. Where do you see the blockchain market industry trends going in the next 1 to 3 decades? And actually, that's a question that I think a friend of mine asked me too, like, where do you see the market going in 50 years from now?
Oh man, I can't even see where the world's going to be in 50 years.
Up to 50.
Up to. I mean, to be honest with you, if you told me where we were now 5 years ago, I wouldn't believe you. We've grown so fast, just in terms of, yeah, not even including the cryptocurrency side and the blockchain side. I'd have never thought that, when I started contributing to Hyperledger white paper, that IBM would actually take it that seriously and start rolling up some stuff. But let me be honest as well. I've seen a lot of non-cryptocurrency blockchain use cases that were, excuse my language, absolute crap. About 99% of everything I've seen is actually crap. But it's sometimes not their fault. It's just because it was just, it's an experiment, actually. And I just wish they would be more honest about it. And you know what? It's an experiment. It's fine. It's a learning experience. I've done many of them. I mean, I've created some tokens that were completely useless, but I just use it because I wanted to learn how to make a token. And so I think we're still going to have a lot of that maybe over the next 5 to 10 years. There's we still have a very long way to go. I actually hope in the next 10 to 20 years, people won't care about blockchain anymore, because it's just going to be there. Nobody cares about TCP IP, maybe except for developers and network people, obviously.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
But for regular users, they don't care about that. They care if their phone works and they can take a photo, or they can send a message to their friend. They can upload the GIF of their cat. And I hope that's where it can be, because I mean, honestly, blockchain is nothing but a fancy backend database that is a distributed one with decentralized processing. Yes, but It's nothing much more than that. And that's really how it should be. People don't care about it too much. So I mean, 30 to 50 years, I don't know. We might, blockchain might not be the thing, or it might evolve to something else. Like I mentioned, there's other versions of decentralized ledger technology, like the direct to the cyclic graph, which is implemented on some protocols like Obyte and IOTA, as well as a
Sure.
few others that I don't remember. So we'll see. I don't know if it will still be followed. Blockchain by then, if it's still called that, might be very different from what we originally thought of today.
Sure. Yeah, tech definitely moves very fast.
Yeah.
Getting to the next question, let's see here. Is there a lot of opportunity to moonlight that probably means around work or probably outside of work, doing blockchain development?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. I think one of the biggest misconceptions around the space is that, you know, to get started in a certain project, you need to start working full time, or you need to reach out to the team to say, hey, can I work with you? But actually, a lot of the really cool projects around the space just started because some people decided to make something fun. You know, there was actually, I did this. I created the joke token. I tried to make it sort of like this beer debt tracking token. Yeah, I just did that by myself. I mean, okay, I was working already with NXT at the time, but I did it on my own time. I just wanted to do it, and yeah, some people used it. Some people claimed beer with it, actually. And yeah, a lot of community-based projects today are even better off because you can actually go to certain projects, especially if they're under this thing called decentralized finance or DeFi, or even general crypto projects. Actually, you can go up there, and they sometimes have these grant programs where you could just say like, hey, I want to work on this. I think this would be really cool. You know, and they'll say like, yeah, sure, here's $5,000. Okay, maybe not necessarily $5,000, but you get my point. Depending, of course, how cool it is. There are some people literally asking for like $1 million. It's insane. But yeah, you can just be honest and say like, look, I have a full-time job. I just want to work on this on weekends. And it can be something really basic. It can be something like, oh yeah, better UI for verification of a message that's being signed if it's really from that address. I mean, something like that doesn't necessarily have to be so complex. It can be totally be done as somebody just moonlighting. I don't know how long it will take, but it has been done before, and it was done completely on their own initiative. So now it's a better time than before because there's actually a chance that you could get grants from those projects to build those things. So yeah, please just start going around look for a project that you're interested in and start to think, what can I build on top of this? It'll be cool. And that's the best way to start moonlight.
Yeah.
And yeah, you work on your own time too.
Definitely. That brings up some interesting things I'd like to ask you about later, but I think
Sure.
Let's keep going. Emil asks, since you don't have a tech background, how did you get hired? On what basis?
I got hired in the NXT Foundation as a marketer. Again, I did self-teach myself something, so I actually built their website. At the time, NXT was in the top 10. They already had their own website by then, but they were launching this thing called Ardor, which ended up becoming in the top 20. And I always like to joke that that was the cheapest website in the top 20 because they paid me exactly about $50 for it, for which I paid $49 on WordPress tools. So I made $1. So yeah, I mean, I got hired to do marketing. And while I was doing marketing, I had to learn. There was nobody in between me and the devs. I talked to the devs and they would tell me exactly what this feature is, whatever they were releasing. And it was up to me to understand it. Yeah, I just had to understand it. I mean, I guess if you really go back into how I got that, my father did one really good thing. One of the few things that was good that he did was he gave me a computer at the age of 4 and just said, figure it out.
Yeah.
And try not to break.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, so yeah, it was just, you know, I've had, I guess, like a trait of just figuring stuff out. But I think like a lot of people can do it. I've seen a lot of people being able to do that as well. And
I think we're actually
just the willingness to learn.
Yeah, I think we're actually at that point again because like I'm a father now, right? And so sometimes like when I look at a lot of the stuff going on in the blockchain world, I kind of feel like, oh, I wish I had like somebody to kind of figure it out. So like, I don't know, like when my daughter's a little older, I might actually be handing her a computer and asking her to figure out blockchain,
Yeah,
especially with all
don't
the digital art and stuff like that.
yeah, don't give your child an expensive 40-year-old an expensive computer. Don't do what my dad did. That was not smart of him at all. I did not have a computer class. Like literally, like he put me down and said figure it out. But yeah, no, absolutely. The kids today have, you know, a lot of opportunities also, like especially with tablets and stuff like that. It's a lot more foolproof. I think less wires, less for
Yeah.
risk for electrocution. But yeah, it's just about the willingness to learn. I've seen also a lot of people in the space who aren't technical just dedicate themselves to learning, and learning doesn't just mean reading and taking online classes. It means getting in there, talking to people, being honest about what you don't understand, and asking for help. And that's how I was able to, yeah, just move up along there. I mean, a lot of my roles were still around business and tech, being in between business and tech, sorry. But eventually I actually ended up learning enough technical stuff. One of my slides showed the blockchain for EU by the European Commission. I got put in that slot by Hyperledger, and I'm like, I'm not a developer. And they said, you're taking the developer slot. No. But actually, at the end of the day, I created a prototype that worked on testnet. No other team was able to do it, but I was able to deploy a full solution on there. I still, again, do not consider myself a developer because I can't properly explain what I just did. But I was able to do that, and a lot of it was reusing knowledge that was passed on to me. So
Definitely.
I'm sure a lot of people do the same.
So the next question is, how do you go about testing crypto algorithms?
I'm assuming here they mean consensus algorithms and not actually cryptography protocols, because I wouldn't be able to answer that part. I'm not, I've only learned about applied cryptography. Oh, consensus, great. That's a really tricky one, because from my experience, a lot of it is not really so much on the technical side, but more on the social aspect. Yes, the technical side is still important. It certainly matters in terms of network throughput and things like that, as well as, of course, you know, energy usage. Of course, proof of stake uses less energy than proof of work, depending on how proof of work is implemented. So yeah, again, look at the implementation. There's different, you know, consensus algorithms, but there's different ways to implement them. Why I say it's a social thing is because, one, again, regular users don't really care so much. So it's a lot of it from the marketing side. It's a lot to do with the distribution sometimes of the coins of the protocol. So for example, with Bitcoin, you know, you can mine it. You don't have to buy it from anyone. Yeah, okay, now you can't really mine it unless you have like $1 million to buy miners and cheap electricity and all of that. But theoretically, like if all of the miners just stopped mining, and, you know, guess what? Now you have the opportunity. If it's a pure proof of stake thing, you just have to buy it from somebody else. That might seem less decentralized than it is. Varying differences, of course. But yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with adoption. A lot of it has to do with the marketing aspects. I mean, actually, one of the things that's key actually is with Hyperledger Fabric, what some people just call Hyperledger incorrectly. It's Hyperledger Fabric because there's various different frameworks. It actually has a pluggable consensus algorithm because they understand that every different use case is going to have a different ideal consensus algorithm. And yeah, it on one side, it is partly about what the network wants to achieve, but then at the second part, it's relying on how are the users going to be interacting here? How's the game theory going to be working out? And it's such a complex game theory because there's multiple games happening at the same time, and people may be willing to lose one game to win others. And the game just keeps changing all the time. So yeah, that's how I evaluate it, which is it's complicated, and I have to take into consideration a lot of things, and I have to understand what do I want to achieve. There's many different use cases that maybe the consensus algorithm doesn't matter at all. As long as it's decentralized enough for my tastes, or rather for satisfying certain legal conditions might be another aspect. So it really, yeah, depends on what you want to do.
Good stuff. So somebody asks about like the YouTube channels and the books that you've read, can you repeat them if possible? I think, can we get them shared on our Discord later?
Yeah, I can post them on Discord later. I think that'll be the
Okay.
easiest. Sorry, I probably should have made a slide for that, but yeah, I can just post them down.
That's
But like I
perfect.
said, a lot of times you just look up on YouTube and Google or whatever search engine you want to use.
So are you
started.
following like anybody in particular? I know you mentioned Andreas, what was his last name?
Antonopoulos.
Antonopoulos. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll need to get that. Anybody
I'll
else
spell
that
his
you're
name out.
following? Okay.
I mean, honestly, I don't really like actively follow Andreas. I've just seen him speak twice. I don't really follow certain people, to be honest. I think, whenever I want to get in depth at something, I kind of just contact the project themselves. I'm not saying that they listen to me because I've been around the space for a while, but I found like ways to contact people while making seem genuine at the same time, because I am like, whenever I reach out to a project, actually because I'm interested in whatever you're doing from a tech standpoint or really anything. I guess they can tell because the questions I asked are very relevant, and it's clear that I've done my research before asking them. So yeah, I don't really follow anyone, and I hope everybody here who wants to get into crypto gets to that space where they don't have to look at a certain thought leader anymore, or maybe they follow certain people just because they're entertaining or give some good information. I'm also not a trader. Again, as I mentioned, I'm a horrible trader and a horrible investor. Most of the channels out there focus on that aspect, so yeah, I don't follow any of them.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's see here. Emil asks, what languages do you dev work with? So, like Python, JavaScript, that sort of thing.
Yeah, JavaScript is quite a big thing because one of the biggest areas around the cryptocurrency space right now is Ethereum and all of the other blockchain networks that use the Ethereum virtual machine. So you have to learn Solidity. And generally, most of the people who know JavaScript can learn Solidity fairly easily. I've heard, though, a lot of people start complaining about Solidity within about 2 months of starting to learn it. Literally, I was just talking to one of my colleagues, and he was complaining about Solidity nonstop. So Solidity is JavaScript's a great thing to learn, and keep going at it. I know that's the theme of this meetup group. So, but yeah, Solidity is something you'll have to learn. Golang seems to be quite useful for the enterprise blockchain side, especially with Hyperledger Fabric, as well as some of the other Hyperledger frameworks. In terms of the web aspect, yeah, just a standard, web tech stacks tend to be used there. I mean, there's nothing really different from that point of view versus, other startups that's new in the fintech space. Angular seems to be something, or rather the newest version of it. Sorry if I'm flubbing the name or something. That was what was used, at least by some of the developers that I know who were building a lot of web apps around the cryptocurrency space. Yeah, it's going to be very different also depending on the platform. I see just quickly a question about Substrate. Yeah, that's again, this starts then to start depending on which platform you want to work on. Bitcoin, BTC with the sidechain called the Liquid Network has their own smart contract language as well called Simplicity. Coding on top of the Lightning Network is going to be a different thing altogether, which is a layer 2 thing on top of Bitcoin. Every different, yeah, actually with JavaScript, you can start looking into this platform called Lisk. Yeah, each one has different things. If you want Java, there's NXT. So yeah, it depends what you want to learn, which project you want to get into.
So Just asks, how much speed or performance matter in terms of creating or adding to a blockchain? In other words, is one Bitcoin better than another because they can create or maintain their blockchain? And so he's asking if this is a newbie question too.
I'm not sure if I fully understand it, but I mean, Bitcoin is only on the Bitcoin network, and there's a set amount of Bitcoins created per block. Forgot what it is right now. I think it's 6.75. So as long as it's on the main chain, so there's of course chain forks and things like that. I don't have enough time to get into exactly how that works because I think this could be a whole discussion on a presentation on its own. But there's only one type of Bitcoin network, which is Bitcoin. That said, if asking about the different, if there's one Bitcoin can be different from another Bitcoin while it's on the main network, yes, it actually can, because Bitcoin is not fully fungible. If you get your Bitcoin directly from Satoshi Nakamoto, I mean, wow, you can sell that to somebody else probably for more than what one Bitcoin would be worth, because you could say, hey, this is from the guy himself. But at the same time, if you got that Bitcoin that was from, criminal activity, other people may not want to touch that. Yeah, so, but with the different networks, on Ethereum, there is, oh crap, this is going to get complicated, but there's also this thing called a wrapped Bitcoin, which somebody has created a token representing Bitcoin. It's supposed to be also one-to-one, not always the case. But in general, like on the Ethereum network, there's Ether. On Lisk, there's LSK, and NXT, there's NXT, and so forth. Yeah, you don't make Bitcoin on another network.
All right, so those are some good points there. And actually, you talked a little bit about like, not wanting to accept Bitcoin that may have come from some crime syndicate or something like that. So I was going to ask, like, it's a good segue. Why do you think, in your own opinion, some of the coins are going down lately?
Honestly, it's just normal crypto activity for me.
It's normal. Okay.
Somebody asked me, like, why did this thing go down by 30%? It's normal. But actually, I mean, it really depends. It's, yeah, I see somebody say crypto life. It's not really that unusual, to be honest. There can be no reason, like, let me tell you a story. With NXT, the price was going down. I was about to fly from Longyearbyen, Svalbard to Denmark, which is a 2.5-hour flight. Oh no, that's more. Sorry, to Oslo was 2.5-hour flight. And I got on the plane, people were complaining to me because it was going down by 5%. I have no idea why. She just posted something really good. I said, hey guys, new version just got released. It's great. And then price goes down 5%. Like, what's going on? Do you not like that? Okay. I land and people are like, what did you do? Because the price went up by 20%. And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't have internet. I was over the Arctic. No explanation. I have no idea sometimes. I mean, there's another time also, like when there was this, how do I make this simple? So Bitcoin was going this way, and then some people decided to split it and create this thing called Bitcoin Cash. People knew that the split was going to happen. This can be, you can probably make this comparison to a stock split where, they're about, or not stock split, sorry, a dividend issuance where the stock, let's say, has this price. They know that they're going to issue about $15 of dividends. So stock goes up by $15 or close to it, somewhere around there. And then after the money gets distributed, it goes back down. Normal activity, right? Not what happened here. Bitcoin goes here. They know that the split's going to happen. Split happens. Bitcoin Cash has this certain value. You would think that the price of Bitcoin goes down because people were expecting that. No, the price of Bitcoin continues to go up. Actually went up directly by 5% immediately after the split. Why? I don't know. It's just the crypto space. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it could go down significantly. It's because something bad happened. Of course, if it goes down by 90%, yes, something happened, either because they got hacked, team members disappeared, which happens sometimes.
Right. I was going to say that maybe the hacking or like bugs or things like that could be responsible for a lot of the downturn.
Yeah, people steal from exchanges and dump the money, dump the price, or any random news. Elon gets unhappy.
You're in the business. Yeah. And I was going to ask you about Elon too, but you're in the business, right? Immunify is like about like, maybe if you could briefly tell people what Immunify is and, kind of give us some background, like what is it that you do currently with Immunify?
Yeah, I have a bad habit sometimes of completely forgetting to talk about what I'm doing.
Sure.
So yeah, Immunify is a bug bounty platform. It's focused around crypto. If you don't know what a bug bounty platform is, it's basically where projects come in and say, here's your code, try to find some bugs. If you find some bugs, please don't exploit it. let us know. And if you let us know, we'll pay you out this amount. And they fix it, hopefully. And yeah, we take a certain percentage of that. It's quite public about it right now. It's 10% of the rewards. So yeah, and we focus on cryptocurrency projects. We focus on projects with smart contracts. So we're just getting a lot of, we actually have a lot of resources on our website for people who want to learn about Solidity. I'll post that as well on the Discord channel for people who want to start learning. And for people who are not technical as well, like there's actually a lot of resources there too for non-technical people, just to get an understanding of how everything's working. Yeah, so that's one of the main things that I do with Immunify. I'm a co-founder, so that means I do a lot of things. I really mean it when it's unstructured working hours. It's really crazy.
But you get paid pretty well, right? Like that was kind of like, I saw it in other videos. $100,000 or something.
The bug bounty hunters get paid well.
Yeah,
we don't.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah, the bug bounty hunters get paid very well. Like our community members, the ones who can find the really big critical vulnerabilities can get paid fantastically well. One guy got paid $700,000. Another vulnerability got paid out with $800,000. I mean, yeah, our standard rate is 10%, so you can kind of figure out how much we as a company are making. Me as an individual, different story. But yeah, our community can kind of get paid pretty well. Actually, that 700 and 800,000 thing, same guy. He made $1.5 million on our platform.
Wow.
Which is just crazy for me to think about, that a person became a millionaire on our platform.
Genius programmer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's really good. He's a really nice guy, and he's self-doxed actually, so I can say his name. His name is Alexander Schlindwein. I'm sure he likes it when I mention his name. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of bug bounty hunters on our platform as well. I mean, yeah, there's a huge amount, but there's also people who make 50,000, 100,000. I mean, that's not small amounts of money. And these people are actually saving much more than the amount they're getting paid. Somebody who can get paid $50,000 probably has prevented losses of about $10 million in space. The one that got paid 800,000, yeah, he actually prevented about a couple $100 million in losses.
And it's
actually,
those losses, right, that kind of dictate like whether stuff goes up or down sometimes, right? Like, because there's hacking and there's bugs and yeah.
Whenever exchanges get hacked, if a certain coin is the one that got stolen, yeah, the price is going to tank a lot, but it's not going to go down 30%. It's going to go down 75 to 90% or something around that range. But actually, like, going back to bug bounty programs in general, that's one of the things that we're trying to fix in this space, not just in crypto, but overall. This impact-based rewards is something that we're really going to try to push, because a lot of existing programs, I'm not going to mention which ones, let's just say there's this one Fortune 500 company that has a very big influence in the, or not influence, but rather big market share in whatever is in your computing devices. Had a very big critical vulnerability. They paid out about $200,000 for it. That's a lot of money, but if you think about the impact it could have made and the amount of people's lives that would have just been negatively affected significantly. I mean, in the United States, you get a lot of news there about people getting their identity stolen. Actually, after I left the States, somebody tried to buy a car in with my name. It was an 85-year-old man buying cars in California. I never lived in California. I've been to California, I like it there, but I mean, all of this, like the KYC leakages and data leakages, it's such a huge impact. And yeah, I mean, if you probably went to one of these companies that said that if they would give you a reward, they're probably not going to give you enough. They'd say like, okay, yeah, here's $2,000, enjoy, go away. And if you complain, we'll sue you. And that literally happens. I'm not making that up.
Yeah, so, no, this is like way better of an opportunity in some say. Like you're obviously saving like millions or even billions of dollars. But obviously, like you have to, work your way up and kind of learn the space. I'm gonna try to like dive into a few more questions here, and then I think we can try to wrap it up. I'm not sure how much time you have, but if you're good for another 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. I think before I jump into the last questions that I see here, I think that we had one from Joey. He says, what's the easiest way to convert your crypto into USD and accommodate for tax gains correctly? And then can we talk about Elon Musk?
I do not know US tax law. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I live in a country with zero cap gains tax.
Yeah,
I
Joey, you may
don't
want
have
to research that.
Yeah, but Joey, I can send you directly some resources that can help you answer those questions. A few of my friends run companies that deal with US taxation for cryptocurrencies. But in terms of converting, most exchanges give pretty good rates. Kraken, I don't know with Coinbase, but Coinbase does have a 6% premium on the regular app. So, or at least back then before they banned me for using expired ID. They don't like Filipinos as well, actually. So they banned me. No, it's just it didn't. I was a U.S. resident at the time, and so they were okay with it. They didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, no, converting on most of the major exchanges tends to be quite good. Obviously, if you try to go through like a specialized service, you're going to pay a much higher fee. So I think Bitrex is one of the other big exchanges in the United States that's still fully regulated that you guys can use. Unfortunately, there's also quite a lot of regulations right now around the United States in terms of the approved exchanges. So I don't even know what exchanges are still available to US citizens. But yeah, it's really different from the tax structure from country to country. Like even here in Switzerland, I say it's 0% capital gains, but if you're a professional trader, you are going to pay taxes on that. If you're in Germany, you're going to pay a very hefty capital gains tax whenever you sell. Unless you hold it for a year, which then it goes down. And here in Switzerland also, I mean, for me, I get paid in crypto. So I pay income taxes on that. But yeah, I'm happy to share with you the resources, but there is no one size fits all here.
So it just depends on where you live, right? Like if you can figure out how to like live in the best nation and keep your crypto with the lowest taxes, then you kind of luck out. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. But I mean, in general, you know, my general advice is try to stay compliant. I've declared all of my crypto gains. I mean, here in Switzerland, you do pay a wealth tax. So even if I don't have cap gains, I have to pay wealth tax. So I have to declare every crypto that I own, and I do. Also partly because I'm an immigrant and I don't want them to kick me out for abusing that.
Absolutely.
But no, yeah, in the IRS, I know that they're also trying a lot of things to get a better understanding around it. Trust me, as somebody who was audited by the IRS and then gone after for a mistake that they made, but they went after me for about 5 months, but it was part of the government shutdown thing, so it wasn't able to be corrected. You know, try do as much as you can in order to stay compliant. It's not worth the risk. But yeah, it seems to be really different for most people. I think different states also in the US, I don't remember. I've only ever lived in Washington State, so I don't know how big the differences can be in terms of capital gains.
Okay. Taylor asks, any smart contract security communities you can recommend? Trying to absorb as much info. That's a good question in general.
I mean, I'm a bit shilling here, but I'd like to say that our community is pretty good. We have a very collaborative one. Yeah, there's a lot of people who just share resources and help each other learn. There's another one as well. I am part of that, but I haven't really contributed, but it seems to be a lot of the project owners or people who are heavily involved with certain projects, so it might be close to that. Yeah, you can start off with ours. We probably also have some people there who are willing to share information of, hey, where can I learn more? I mean, smart contracts is not just with Solidity. There's different platforms. So you can just get started, I guess, asking people. I'm not a hacker myself, although I'm a travel hacker, at least try to call myself that. There's probably a lot of other closed communities out there that people can probably help you out with. A lot of the really good communities that I've been part of that have helped me learn and understand were these small private communities where we just shared knowledge with each other. And I'm still part of some of them to this day. For the past 8 years, I've been talking to the same people.
So kind of winding down here, want to make sure, you know, we have one final call for, you know, some of the questions going on. So if you have questions, leave it in the chat. I'm right now just kind of sharing some more links for people who asked about whether, you know, we can get some more resources or, you know, more cool communities. So Travin is going to go ahead and drop in some of those resources on our Discord. So I put a link to our Discord in the chat. Make sure you keep the chat open and you try the links out. Let me know before we finish if you have any issues. Everything is always on our website, javascriptla.net. You can go and check out our upcoming meetups there. There's one on TypeScript coming up soon. We also have a community open source group where we code together called Team Hack. And so that's where you'll be able to, learn to code or practice coding. There's a lot of the stuff that you see. I am now actually sharing my screen here just so people can see that. Feel free to connect with me, through LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, any of your favorite social medias. A lot of people come through meetup.com, so you may want to read like some of the description here and go and subscribe through that. Or again, like I said, you can go to LinkedIn. You can also follow me personally on LinkedIn and try to contact me there. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you out directly. I'm going to drop this in the chat as well. This is my personal LinkedIn. And just basically, again, I'm not really seeing more questions here, but at this point, I guess we can just kind of like wind down a little bit. I wanted to ask you, what are you excited about, Travin, like in the blockchain space, and are you doing anything exciting lately?
I'm really excited to see how people adapt to this. There's a lot of things that are very different. I mean, if you think about the past 50 years, it's been the longest period of peace, relatively speaking. 100 years ago, if you talk to anybody doing risk management and they're doing business with Japan from the United States, they're going to say, what if we go to war with them? Which was at the time a very, very reasonable thing to ask. You
Sure.
don't have that anymore. And now you have this option of paying somebody around the world. And now with the things that people are building on top of just that base layer, it's fantastic that people are able to collaborate, get together and do all of this. I'm interested in seeing like the tech that enables this, but I'm really, really interested in seeing how people react to it. It can be for good, it can be for bad. It just, depends on how people adapt to it, but it also depends on how we in the industry take things forward. And I think that's one thing that we have to keep in mind. When plastics were introduced in Fiji, plastics are a fantastic innovation if used correctly. But this was a community that had no idea what plastics were. This was a community where people ate out of banana leaves, and when they were done, they tossed it on the side of the streets. And it was okay because it just biodegraded. Everything they had just biodegrades. It was completely fine. But that wasn't the case with plastic. And so, in the 70s and 80s in Fiji, it was very dirty. And so I'd like to avoid that from happening, or, an metaphorical comparison there with the crypto space. But it's just about making sure that we grow and grow in the right way. But of course, we each have a different idea on what the right way is. So we'll see which wins out. Yeah,
definitely. Like it sounds to me like you and a lot of the people that we've had in the past are, also reading a lot about history and just in general well-read about like things like, how life used to be 50 years ago. Would you say that's pretty correct, statement?
Like I said, it's holistic learning. It's fantastic holistic learning. I mean, I'm a history geek as well, but I didn't know, how much I was missing until I got into this. It's like, wow, it's fantastic. The history of money, the history of how people, just understanding how people used to operate with each other 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and just thinking about how far we've come and how that changes us as a society. And then you add everything else, like the internet.
Yeah.
Insane.
It would be great. It'd be great if you could drop some links on like your favorite reads, like in that space, or sure. Things that kind of like opened your eyes, like again, like the history of money and how things have changed over the course of time. I think you mentioned a book, so please share that book as well.
Yes, yeah, sure. I'll post all of that in the Discord channel. One quick note, I know some people really left, but if anybody adds me on LinkedIn, please mention that it's from this event, because back in my web marketing days, I did search engine optimization, and a lot of people sold guest posting services to me. They still do that to this day. I haven't been in web marketing in like, 7, 8 years now.
Gotcha. Yeah, and actually, like if anybody has those questions on YouTube, because we will post this to YouTube, we'll make sure that all that gets forwarded to the right places. So again, anything you want me to like cover or send, afterwards, feel free to message me directly, and we can get that out there.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, as well, for listening. Appreciate you listening to my story.
Jas says, mad shout out to you. Thank you so much for your experience. Much appreciated.
Appreciate it as well.
All right. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. We'll see you all next meetup, and hope you had fun. Have a good night, everyone.
All right.
See you later. Bye.